Pope Francis in America. His historic trip has ended, but for millions, the memories will last a lifetime. Pope Francis was in the U.S. for 6 days. He visited 3 cities and through it all, spread his message of hope and inclusion to the American people.
The Holy Father's visit sparking emotions through every zip code he touched, beginning in the nation's capital. Then an exuberant reception in New York City, overflowing crowds cheering, greeting the pontiff, and later filling Madison Square Garden.
The excitement only grew in Philadelphia. Pope Francis' primary reason for coming to the United States, the world meeting of families, kissing babies and blessing the sick. Tens of thousands just hoping to get a glimpse. And tonight, Pope Francis is back at the Vatican, but his visit touched the hearts of millions in this country, including hundreds of Rhode Islanders. I had the opportunity to travel to Philadelphia with them, documenting their experience.
But first, Pope Francis looked back at his visit to the nation's capital and his address to a joint meeting of Congress where he delivered strong messages for America. And we caught up with other locals who made the pilgrimage to attend his first Mass in the United States. The first leg of Pope Francis' East Coast tour began in Washington, D.C. In his first trip to America, the Holy Father was greeted by the first family at Joint Base Andrews. From here on in, crowds excited to see the pontiff would follow him throughout. Often stopping to greet, shake hands, and bless those along the route, the People's Pope lived up to his name.
And you are also the first pontiff to share an encyclical through a Twitter account.
Following a meeting with the president in the Oval Office, Pope Francis celebrated Mass at the Basilica of the National Shrine of Immaculate Conception to a crowd of 25,000.
It's certainly momentous.
We caught up with Rhode Islanders overjoyed at the opportunity to take part in such an historic event.
I'm just going to absorb all of it and love it. I can tell you that. I think it's going to be probably the experience of a lifetime.
Seminarians from Providence College inspired by the pontiff's teachings.
And I hope that it's going to help us to deepen our faith and deepen our commitment to what we're going to be doing. And that it's just going to be a great experience of growth, and it's going to be something very, very special.
Another first.
I cried. It was the most wonderful, wonderful moment to see him walk in.
A pope addressing joint members of Congress, 164 of whom are Catholic. But in one of the 4 of Pope Francis' speeches in English, he touched on hot-button political issues such as poverty, the death penalty, and immigration reform.
Your one responsibility as members of Congress is to enable this country by your legislative activity to grow as a nation. You are the face of its people.
Turning down an invitation from Congress, the Pope instead enjoyed lunch with the homeless.
He's a transformative leader, and he certainly has the ability to impact people's lives and thinking in very different ways. And I hope his remarks open the minds and the hearts of everyone.
Before departing for New York, Pope Francis sending a message of love, hope, and faith.
Thank you very much, and God bless America.
I'm joined now by Eyewitness News anchor Danielle North, and Danielle covered the first leg of Pope Francis's trip to America in Washington, D.C. And Danielle, really, what was the highlight for you on this trip?
Well, we were there for about 4 days, and I would say the highlight of the entire trip had to be the Mass at the Basilica. The entire day just had that energy that we were really looking for the entire time we were there. That's when we had, the closest access to Pope Francis, when we were waiting in the crowd before the Mass started. That was when we got to see the Pope Mobile about 10 feet away, which was, the moment that everybody wants, where the Pope is
right
in the vicinity next to you, where you can see him, in some cases almost touch him. You see the cell phones raised, everybody taking their photos. So before the Mass was pretty spectacular. The actual service was incredible. As a lifelong Catholic, I felt that sort of personal connection to it being at a Mass, being, said by the Pope. The canonization of Junipero Serra was incredible to watch. And in fact, after the Mass was over, I was telling you off camera that walking through the crowd and interviewing people just literally left and right as they were walking out, hearing their experiences of the Mass was a pretty amazing thing to be a part of, too.
And there was a lot going on, too, in Washington, D.C. I mean, you had the Mass and then the address to Congress and stuff, so there was a very tight schedule, but he kept on that schedule.
Well, we were all talking in the media about how impressed we were. I mean, this Pope was not late to anything. Granted, he did have roads open, so he was, granted a clear path to most of the events, but I have to say, it was impressive to watch the behind-the-scenes operation. One of the things we heard behind the scenes, too, is that the Pope was really adamant about making one particular event on time, and that was that lunch that he had with those 200 homeless people in D.C. He was really clear that he wanted to spend as much time as possible with those people, so that was a really interesting thing to hear.
Yeah, interesting, too, because he turned down lunch with Congress to have lunch with the homeless. So, and just last question, too, did you ever get a glimpse, make eye contact when you waved or get really close to him at all?
It was close. No eye contact, but the definite wave, and like I said, to be there, to see the Pope Mobile, and to be part of a crowd of 25,000 and receive a papal blessing, pretty spectacular.
All right, once-in-a-lifetime experience for sure. All right, Danielle, thank you so much.
From Washington, D.C. to New York City, Pope Francis remained on a tight schedule throughout his tour of the Big Apple. And he had a huge crowd leading a parade through Central Park and celebrating Mass at the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden.
Pope Francis also offered comfort to 9/11 victims' families at Ground Zero and celebrated a multi-faith service at the National September 11th Museum. The Pope began his busy day through New York by addressing more than 100 world leaders at the United Nations General Assembly, where he called on wealthy nations to take action, accusing them of ravaging the planet and hurting the weak. And just 24 hours ago, the Pope's visit wrapped up in Philadelphia.
And the excitement on Pope Francis's trip to the United States could only be described as infectious. More than 400 Rhode Islanders from across the state made the pilgrimage, and they were not disappointed, especially when the leader of the Catholic Church went right by them.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Pope!
Who wouldn't be excited to be here? It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. This is my chance to see the Pontiff Pope Francis. I don't know if I'm walking. Am I walking or am I walking on air? I'm so excited.
So this is how our day is starting. We got off the bus. We're coming here, all 400. We're going to board a train and head into the city. You are always smiling. This entire weekend you've been smiling the whole time. Why?
I feel like I have that, God in my heart, so that's why not a smile?
I'm enjoying my trip because I'm with 400 Rhode Islanders. How about you?
I'm having a wonderful time today. What is your plan for today?
My plan for today is to see as much as possible. How about you?
I'm looking forward to seeing the parade and the Festival of Families.
They're playing the Mass from the Basilica on the big screen. They just sang the Our Father. You got emotional. Why?
Because I think that the world is filled with hope now. The Pope has come to the United States, and I'm here to deepen my faith, and I felt like I was saying it in unison with the Pope. So I started crying when I said the Our Father. I felt like I was saying it with him at the same time.
Well, as a lifelong Catholic, a graduate of Catholic high school in Rhode Island, I came here to it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience to not meet, but probably just see our Holy Father and just be in his presence for the weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be ridiculously emotional. My mom is crying just walking up here, so I can only imagine the emotion if we get to see him in person, what it'll feel like. Just now thinking about it.
Wow, and Keith and Lisa Klein organized the local pilgrimage to see the Pontiff.
And their almost year of planning and hard work really paid off with great seats to the Papal Mass on Sunday, alongside thousands of other faithful Catholics.
We were 10 feet away from him the last 2 days. To be able to have Mass, where you could hear a pin drop at certain parts of the Mass, and to know that we were all praying together.
It takes your breath away. You look around, there was people from everywhere. Wall-to-wall people, not a sound. People were reverent.
And we will hear more from the Kleins in just a few minutes. But Mike, this was quite the trip. I mean, what did you take away from this experience?
You know, a lot, Kelly. First of all, when you go on a trip with 400 people, you become friends. It's 4 days and you're with them for most of the time. So it was great to be with them. And then second, you know, so many people were so faithful. You know, it was an historic event, and we did bump into people that said that. But they were there because of their faith, and they wanted to see him. And a lot of them told me they just wanted to return home to be a better person.
And you waited, what, more than 7 hours to see the Pope?
So we were walking, doing interviews, and I saw a police officer, and I started getting friendly with him, asking, is the Pope going to come by here? And he said, I wouldn't move if I were you. I would hang around here for a while. So we hung around 7 hours, and then finally the Pope came by. It was like goosebumps.
And I mean, what was that experience like, just to see him go by? I mean, it was only a few seconds, but I mean, what did you take away from that?
Well, the first part, our videographer, John Valella, and I were standing there. We didn't want to miss him. We wanted to get that great shot, and you saw the shot of him going by. But the other thing, too, is after he goes by, you say to yourself, wow, we were just 10 feet away, 20 feet away from the Pope. It was just an awesome experience.
And you see the crowds there, old people, young people, all ages. What were people saying to you after they would experience a mass or after they had been waiting in line and the Pope had gone by? What did they say to you?
They went for different reasons. Some who had battling illnesses, they were looking to go there for a blessing. Some who had beat cancer, and you're going to see that coming up in the show. She just went there to say thank you to God and Pope Francis. She wanted to see him. Others, because it was an historical event, and for some, they just wanted to be in the crowd knowing that people were cheering for people of faith.
And we are surprised too. I mean, there was a lot of events going on in Philadelphia, and everything was coordinated pretty well too.
They had police officers, National Guard on every street corner, the CIA, everything was there. So it was, for 1 million people in the city of Philadelphia, it was unbelievable how smoothly it went.
Yeah, an amazing trip of a lifetime, I'm sure.
Yes.
All right, Mike, thank you. And coming up on Eyewitness News at 6:30, our coverage of Pope Francis in America continues. A precious papal custom. The Pope kisses a baby on the way to Independence Hall. How the blessing is now giving the child's family new hope.
And 400 Rhode Islanders are back home from their once-in-a-lifetime journey to see the Pontiff in Philadelphia. We're going to take a closer look at their experience and hear from a local couple who organized the trip.
You're watching in-depth coverage of Pope Francis and America. We're taking a closer look at the historic U.S. visit. Wherever he stopped, Pope Francis was generous with blessings and kisses along his parade routes.
And probably the most notable moments came when babies were hoisted up to the Pope mobile. So precious, many were shared again and again over social media.
For a Philadelphia family, the encounter is bringing new hope. Doctors didn't expect 1-year-old Gianna Maschantonio to make it to her first birthday. She was born with an inoperable brain tumor, and now her parents are overjoyed after Pope Francis gave her a kiss on the back of her head.
And I held her over the fence as far as I could, and that's when the Swiss Guard or the Secret Service, whoever was guarding the Pope, came up and grabbed her. The Pope kissed her and blessed her.
I fell to my knees, and I cried.
The family waited with a friend from the FBI in front of the federal building who told them the day of it might be possible to get close to the Pope. Our in-depth coverage of Pope Francis and America continues now.
We're bringing you some of the most memorable moments of the Holy Father's historic visit.
I'm joined now by Lisa and Keith Klein, who were given this monumental task by Bishop Thomas Tobin to organize the pilgrimage to Philadelphia to take part in the World Meeting of Families and see the Pope. Now, Keith, logistically, I'm sure this was a challenge, and I'm sure everything went according to plan, but I'm sure you had some challenges.
This was a 9-month process that we were going through to get this pilgrimage up and running. Everywhere from securing hotel rooms for 400 people to busing to going through security, making sure we get the tokens just for get on the subway, just to make sure everyone was safe and protected and had a great experience with this pilgrimage.
And too, I'm sure it must have been a challenge. It's a lot of walking involved too.
Yes. We wanted to make sure that the pilgrims knew exactly what they were going to get themselves into. Someone said yesterday about 7 miles in a day they went yesterday.
Wow, and that's but obviously for a very, very good reason.
Absolutely, it was awesome, just a great experience.
And Lisa, your whole family went. Your 3 children came along. What did you all take away from this experience?
We had so much fun. I have to say, as much as it was a big undertaking, it was also fun. The takeaway, I think, has to be that our faith is alive, it's personal, it's something to be excited about, and it really just wasn't something that ends here, that now that the World Meeting of Families is over, this is something that we just continue to strive to do and live out in everyday life. Yeah. And because of this undertaking that both of you took on here, you got to sit inside for that papal mass and to be, just feet away from Pope Francis. Yeah. Lisa, we'll start with you. What was that like? It was incredible. I mean, people were so respectful, so reverent. I mean, you were literally super close to everybody, and yet everybody was there with just such a calm and peaceful tone. They were looking forward to seeing the Holy Father come out, and we couldn't have asked for more.
Thank you.
It was an amazing experience to see people pray the Our Father on the city streets of Philadelphia and to receive communion as if, and knowing Jesus was right there. It was really an awesome experience for us.
Did you ever think you'd get that close to Pope Francis?
Never.
But we were excited about it.
Did you get any pictures?
Oh yeah,
lots of good
we
pictures.
got lots
we got
of
great
pictures.
We've been sharing
Yeah.
them and posting them and letting other people who couldn't make it. There were a lot of people who couldn't make it because of illnesses and things so now they get to see what we saw.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure many are very, very thankful that you took on this and organized this trip. And we thank you for letting us tag along and show everyone the coverage. Thank you so much
You're welcome. Thank
for
you.
allowing us to do that. And we have been bringing countless stories about how people got the opportunity to witness the Pope in person, including that of a Johnston woman who made the pilgrimage down to Philly all because someone paid it forward. Take a look.
This is always where she wanted to be, on a pilgrimage to see Pope Francis.
A lovely woman named Grace, which her name says it all, made it possible for me to be here.
So she kind of paid it forward then?
She did. She absolutely did.
Karen Paquin of Johnston tells me she could not afford to attend the World Meeting of Families, but someone paid it forward for Karen to be here.
There really are no words that I can even say that. I'm so grateful. I just am so grateful to her. It means everything in the world to me. This is where I belong. This is where I should be, and I'm here.
The generosity has touched Karen's heart.
He's all about love. He's all about taking care of the people that need to be taken care of in this world.
Well, we wouldn't be able to bring you the behind-the-scene coverage of Pope Francis in America without our videographers, Corey Welts and John Villela. Now, Corey was in Washington. John was with me in Philly. Corey, talk about, with the challenges that you faced in D.C.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge for us in D.C. was trying to face the security. D.C. is a tough city to work in anyway. I've shot there before. But with all this added security for the Pope, just getting around became a challenge. And just logistically, it was tough, but we did a lot of pre-planning beforehand, and we were able to get into the security zones early in the morning, and then pretty much stay put throughout the day to be able to bring our coverage.
Now, Corey was telling me they were contained in Washington. You and I were all over the city. What was that like for you?
It was interesting. The crowds were heavy at times. I think lugging the gear through the crowds and then trying to shoot the video and then trying to watch our gear and trying to capture all the good moments was a little bit tough, but I think we got through it okay.
We did a live report on the bus that you can see right here, and we were also taping stuff on the bus. That was tough for you to edit on the bus, too.
Yeah, it was. I mean, obviously, it's moving. You have people talking around you. You have a bunch of distractions, but I think just staying focused on the bus and staying focused on the goal of getting the story back to the viewers the best way we know how.
And you can see my head is covered because we were trying to record something. We were trying to block out the noise. Corey, talk about, what was it like for you to find people from Rhode Island because you were in a contained spot?
Yeah, so we were out in a crowd of thousands of people at one point, and we're trying to find anybody who may be local. Danielle North had a great idea of making a sign that basically said, hey, if you're from Massachusetts or Rhode Island, talk to us. And it worked. We found a couple from Cranston out in the crowd at the Basilica before Mass, and that was an interesting little way for us to try to reach out to people in the crowd. Other than that, we were going to be running through yelling, and that wouldn't be as...
By the way, we would not have been able to put these stories together without these two guys. They were absolutely exceptional. Thank you very much for everything that you did.
Thanks, Mike.
Amazing. Coming up next in our in-depth coverage of Pope Francis in America.
Highlights from our coverage down in Philly. Rhode Islanders absolutely emotional, including one woman who just beat cancer. Pope Francis in America, the Catholic leader leaving his mark on the United States in an historic visit. Welcome back. It's been a weekend tens of thousands of Americans will never forget.
And we traveled down to Philly to show you the experience. I spoke with dozens of people who displayed amazing faith, including one woman who described how she had the strength to battle cancer.
What was that like? I saw you crying.
Unbelievable. The emotions that I'm feeling right now, I'm still shaking. It was unbelievable to be that close to him.
How long did you wait?
9 hours. It was worth it. I don't feel my toes, but it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
What a blessing. We're so happy.
I am very grateful.
9 hours worth every minute. Every minute.
Yes.
I tried so hard to take a picture. No picture, but I looked him in the eye. That was better.
I'm so happy to be here. I feel like shaking my body, and I can't tell you how I feel. God bless America.
I just went through cancer, so coming here, it was very, very touchy.
So this was important to you,
Yes,
to get a blessing by Pope Francis.
I came to say thank you, because I just went through colon cancer, and I am cancer-free, and God was my other side to help me go through it. He was my companion. I am very blessed.
And you were blessed one more time.
Yes, very, very blessed.
And thank you very much for watching.
And we leave you with the Pontiff's parting message to America. Of course, the People's Pope leaving his message on Twitter. Have a great night.